The National Democratic Alliance is expanding its lead over opponents. If current trends hold, the BJP itself can win a majority in the Lok Sabha. You're watching this special election special on Bloomberg Quint. I'm Harsha Subramaniam. Joining us to give us a sense of what this means for business in India is Chairman of the Godrej Group, Mr. Adi Godrej, one of the most respected voices of corporate India. Mr. Godrej, thank you so much for joining us today. If leads are to go by, it looks like a decisive mandate in favor of the BJP and the NDA. What would a re-election for Prime Minister Modi mean for business and the economy?
I think it's a very good sign. For one, I think the new government would be able to take decisive actions to increase the Indian GDP growth, which would be very good for the economy. And I think they will soon start working on it.
What, to your mind, are the key priorities or issues for the new government, Mr. Godrej, especially since we are faced with the prospect of a slowing economy?
So to get the economy going again, we have to get a faster GDP growth rate. So for example, they could reduce corporate taxes. They had already announced that they would reduce corporate taxes to 25%. India is one of the highest corporate taxed countries in the world. They reduced it for smaller companies, but not for larger companies. And other actions to accelerate growth would be welcome. That would create the jobs. A lot of the other problems could be addressed by addressing faster growth.
With this kind of political mandate, Mr. Godrej, do you anticipate the government to push ahead through slightly bolder reforms with respect to capital or labor in this term?
Yes, I think so. I think now they've got a tremendous mandate again. And last couple of years, they were, I think, bogged down by the prospects of an election. So I think now they could take decisive action.
There are some concerns as we speak on the farm sector and on jobs, as you mentioned, which all need spending. But we are also faced with a situation where the government may not have so much fiscal headroom. How do you think that this government can balance or rather tackle this at the situation?
As I mentioned, fiscal headroom is never an issue. We should take action which increases government revenues also and GDP growth. Such as I said, whenever India has reduced rates of taxes, we have increased the revenues. Even in GST, for example, after introduction of GST, they reduced a lot of rates on GST. And despite that, revenues have gone up or at least stayed steady, not come down.
So one follow-up question on GST, sir. You've been a big advocate. We've seen the government push through on GST. Yet it did cause a lot of discomfort, particularly in the small and medium-sized enterprises. Do you expect the government to sort of review, tweak, make this a lot more competitive and efficient from a tax standpoint?
No, I don't think it caused any problems to small and medium-scale industry who were honest. I think the big problem was people who did not pay their taxes earlier were now compelled to pay their taxes, and that was the big complaint.
I have one final question, Mr. Godrej. Any guesses on who the next finance minister is likely to be?
No, I have no. I think Arun Jaitley may continue.
Okay. We'll leave it there, sir. Thank you so much indeed for joining us with your perspective. Sure.
Thank you. Good talking to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Godrej, for joining us. That's a view of corporate India. He's expecting reduction in corporate taxes as expected. Does not believe that the GST has been hugely disruptive in a sense for small and medium-sized enterprises, and growth measures so that the GDP can expand. We'll slip on a short break, but on the other side, we'll talk more markets, impact of the election verdict on the markets. Hiren Ved of Alchemy Capital will join us on the other side.